All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a festive season edition of the Thrive and Survive Research Hub podcast. I have my co-host and partner in crime, Tineiwo Zenda, with me here today. T, how are you on this fine day?
I'm very well, Alex. How are you doing, eh?
Fantastic. Feeling well rested, getting some much needed time in the sun. But yeah, so I think I'll kick us off today with a question for T. So we're in the festive season, and I think a lot of people go into it with this mindset of I've been working so hard the whole year. I really just need some time to recharge and rest. How do you approach the festive season without self-destructing and sabotaging all of the progress you've made on your goals throughout the year?
Great question, and I think very relevant as well. But I mean, I guess the reality of like the new way to survive in the new construct of the world is to master balance, right?
Mhm.
So gone are the days where you could, of course, depending on your age as well, but because there's so much more to do, and I think humans in general are more ambitious than they've ever been. You know, the opportunity to stay in balance and within a rhythm of momentum is extremely essential towards your accumulated results of your medium to long term success. So,
Mm.
if you look at success and you're a young individual and you approach festive seasons like this, you also tend to be extra careful in how you deal with them because they can disrupt. And for me, like I said, it's just not doing things in excess. I always speak of not doing things in out of moderation and doing everything in moderation too.
Right.
You know, I think it's those small things that help you to still have a good time, but
Yeah.
not to the point of diminishing returns. And when the new year starts, you then start off on a high, not a low, and you're able to continue working at the intensity that you would before the holidays. So that's just how I do it, maintaining balance. Yes, enjoying myself, um, but doing it within moderation and doing it repetitively while doing all my other activities that I would do on a day to day. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's how I get about it, bro. In a long story short, the art of balance. And
Awesome.
I mean, what is your approach to it, eh?
I love that. No, I think yeah, you made so many good points there that we can like expand on. So like balance, I think people confuse balance a lot because there's this image in your head that balance needs to be 50-50. Work-life balance. But for me, balance is like a seesaw that's constantly shifting depending on the needs of the season. Depending on the time of the year. But
Yeah,
you should never let any part of your life completely get neglected.
yeah,
So the way I would approach that is like now we go into the festive season. Most people have more free time, right? Most people have more free time. So the
yeah,
swing is now shifting from like what your commitments are, professional versus personal. Now that the swing has shifted, you now have more time for your personal commitments, being your relationships, your
yeah,
your own well-being, you know, your goals, things like that. But you should still be mindful of your professional commitments. So like I
yeah,
said, don't neglect it entirely. Even if it's just taking 30 minutes to write with a pen and a piece of paper, what your goals are for next year or reflecting. And we can talk more about reflection later on in the pod because I think that's also very important. But like just doing something little for your professional side can go a long way and just keep you in that, they say if you always stay ready, you never have to get ready. Like it just
yeah.
keeps
100%,
you in that mental frame of mind. And then
100%.
the thing you said there about momentum. So momentum is huge. And
Yeah,
often we end the year at a place of, if you're a high performer, you're ending it on a place of peak momentum. I know there's a lot of people around you that tend to go, when you hit the festive season, they're like slow, go on the slow. But
Yeah,
on the guys that are high performers are like, okay, I want to get as much done as possible before the office closes so that I can rest with this in mind, you know.
100%, 100%.
I think with momentum, often we go into the festive season and we just drop everything completely. And we decide, okay, I have to do the maximum amount of self-destruction because that's what everyone around me does. You know, most people in
Yeah,
the festive season, they drink way too much, they eat way too
yeah,
much rubbish, they don't sleep a lot.
yeah,
Um, you know, you're with your family, which can sometimes be stressful, you know, if you've especially if you've got like in-laws and cousins and all of those things, you know, interpersonal relationships are complicated. So what should be like a loving Christmas experience can also be stressful depending on your relationships, you know.
yeah, yeah, of course,
So
of course. And what and also depending on what's happening, right?
exactly,
During that time of the year.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, that was just me like recapping what you said there, which I really liked. For me personally, I look at it as every day is a day in your life, and you should
Yeah,
be the same person every day. You can shift the intensity, which I think you should, because you can't go
yeah,
sprinting the whole year. So going into the festive season is useful to slow down,
yeah,
but your character should be the same. And, you know, I was thinking to myself this morning, like, give yourself permission to live up to your own high standards that you've set for yourself,
yeah,
regardless of what everybody else says. So, I mean, for me, every day I need to do something that's good for my body. I need to do something that's good for my mind. And that's the standard that I set for myself, and that's what makes me happy.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, some other people might look at me and be like, what are you doing? It's holidays. But like, that's what I want to do on my holiday. So
of course, of course, of
that's why I
course.
say, give yourself permission to be you during the festive
Yeah.
season, you know?
And I like how you said that about obviously give yourself the time to be you, and also um, you know, assessing whether what you're doing is either draining you or recharging you.
Exactly.
And you spoke about the empty spaces or the change of priorities during the festive season. It's very like critical to monitor that. And I'd like to give an example with regards to my personal life. So obviously, because I'm not doing business during this time of the year, I have an extra 8 hours, bro, to really look at what I can do to aid myself or progress myself. And one of the things that I chose or that I do as a hobby is golf. So I was like, okay, cool. During this festive season, what recharges me? What is therapeutic that actually aids into my overall well-being? Because I don't want to just waste this amount of time. Yes, I want
Right.
to spend more time with family and stuff like that. But from a hobby perspective, I now have the opportunity to allocate more time to this. And the goal is to become have a single digit score at golf.
Right.
So I use this time to get ahead for that goal because I know that it's not there all the time. And it's been so great. Like I feel great. I'm exercising at the same time. I mean, golf is quite a serious sport, so I'm also getting to meet some really interesting people. And then when I come home, I feel energized.
Right.
Even if I do have a drink or two, it's moderated and I spend time with my family. So for me, this time has really been a period where I almost say it's my leapfrogging time,
Yes.
where you get ahead while
Yes.
having fun
Right.
and do things that recharge you so that when you start off the year, you are out the starting blocks.
Well said.
It's very easy to do things that you enjoy but drain you.
Exactly.
And you have too much draining going on, then the battery needs more time to charge. And you don't always need that depending on your plans for the following year.
Right. And that's where that principle of moderation comes in, right? I mean, you speak about it a lot, and I'm a big fan on it. Is too much of anything will destroy you.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the problems that people often have in the festive season, is they think that there's an expectation on them to consume in excess. And I almost feel like there's a pressure because of society and because of culture. You're essentially being bombarded with messaging about overconsumption. I mean, all of the festive season shopping, I mean, it also wrecks lots of people's finances because there's this
Yeah.
immense pressure.
To say it again,
Yeah, you got to
100%.
eat out every day. You got to buy everybody a bunch of gifts. You have your Christmas Eve, you have Christmas, you have New Year's, you have this, you have that. Um, yeah, and people lose themselves. That's the thing that I guess I wanted to say is like I often think about whatever changes around you, your character should stay the same.
Yeah,
Location, time of year, people. You can let the world dictate to you who you should be, or you can dictate to the world who you are. And that's on
yeah,
you. And
yeah,
um, it's okay to let different like environments bring out different sides of you, but your core principles must always be in place. And I think moderation and self-control is a great principle to always keep with you at all times.
yeah, yeah,
So, I think a lot of people in the festive season, one of the challenges that they find is navigating interpersonal relationships. And I'm curious, what is your personal approach to making sure that the time that you spend with your loved ones is refreshing you, energizing you, and not being something that kind of moves you back at this time of the year?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, to just keep it very brief, I think basically what you do when you spend time with them, I
Mm,
think is extremely important, right? Because I think the environment definitely sets the tone for the type of day you're gonna have. So, I like to try to do it. Firstly, home is always great because I mean I think that's where some of the best memories are made. And then secondly, uh, outdoors as well,
mm,
particularly nature, so like hiking, safari. I love to go to safari, sport as well, golf, you know, um, and any other activity that they enjoy doing. I think sometimes socializing, especially with interpersonal relationships, becomes a little bit better when you associate it with an activity. It becomes a more intimate experience, and it's also becomes a real memory. And I think in that type of setting, where either one of you guys are very comfortable, you're more likely to have open conversations that are building and conversations that also allow for you to be vulnerable and hold each other accountable and speak about serious things.
mm.
So yeah, but I think that's for me the most important thing. I wouldn't want to go out to clubs or go meet up at a pub where it's noisy and everyone's getting sloshed and stuff like that. I think we had that time with Springboks.
Right.
you know, I think now the agenda is a lot more different, and if you really keep that top of mind, then you're really able to recharge through those engagements, and that little time allocation really goes a long way. So yeah, that's how I approach it. But I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Well, when I'm listening to what you say, the thing that comes to mind is all like quality over quantity, which I think is a great principle in terms of relationships and just in terms of life as well.
Yeah,
But something that I would add is two things. So one is expectation management, which I think you do very well because people who know you know that these are the terms that, having a relationship with you are essentially. Like, you got to know that you've got a lot going on. You're a busy guy. You are interested in like high quality conversation, high quality experience. You don't really want to be wasting time, you know? And
yeah,
I'm very much the same. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're such good friends. The second thing that I would add is relationships are not built in a holiday. Relationships are built the whole year and they get celebrated in the holiday. So I think most people are like, I don't have during the year, they're like, I don't have time to deal with my issues with somebody. I don't have time to have this conversation that's uncomfortable. I'll save it for the
yeah,
festive season. And the reason that is a problem is that you get to the festive season and now you do this uncomfortable thing and now you ruin the moment because you're talking about your issues on Christmas. You know, it's the first time it's the first moment that you've made time to handle this issue, which is difficult, you know. And now you can't hide behind the responsibilities of the year to be like, oh no, I don't have time to work, talk about this problem because I have work or this or that. So my approach has always been do the work during the year so that when the festive season comes, you can celebrate and you can relax. And you've now got that hard work done in the front. So that's the second thing. The third thing I would add is I've learned a very valuable lesson in interpersonal relations in the sense that there is a time to teach and there is a time to just accept. And what I mean by that is if someone does something that you think needs to be corrected, maybe it's not a good time to tell them about it when you have 20 people at an event and they are under pressure and you don't have intimacy and privacy. That's not the time to do it. You need to pick a moment where there's no pressure on them. They can really, like, you can speak to them in a calm way and they're receptive to the thing that you're trying to say. And you need to come from a place of, it's not criticism. I'm not trying to criticize. It's, I've noticed something and I think we can work on it together. This is my point, you know? And there, that goes that work from earlier on in the year, having those difficult conversations. So don't spend the whole festive season criticizing everything that your family does or your friends do. It's not the time. Just because you've got time now and you're noticing these things, like be grateful, appreciate them, accept their flaws, you know, just accept, okay, maybe they do something that irritates me. Well, I do that as well. I'm also irritating to people. So, you know, I think a big way of navigating any kind of challenge in the festive season is being grounded in gratitude. I think that's a great approach for life in general, but it definitely applies for the festive season. You know, coming from a place of appreciation and just saying, I'm grateful to have my family around me during the festive season. I'm grateful to have time. That's a privilege. It's not something that you're entitled to. You know, it's a privilege because there are a lot of people that are working now during festive season. This is their busiest. If you're in the restaurant business, festive season sucks. Festive season sucks because you are dealing with peak traffic, you know. Lots of people are far away from their family right now because they can't go home. So I think remembering that puts things into an important perspective and it helps you to avoid the mistake of getting frustrated and irritated about things that don't really matter right now. Like you don't really have to take
100%.
So yeah.
And you know they say, and you said that, well, I think that alludes to, you know, the famous saying, pick your battles wisely, right?
Yep.
I think if you just have that type of mindset in general, even throughout the year, then you are more likely to allocate your mental energy, which is limited, you know, to things that are more profitable to you in many other ways.
Yeah. So if we can summarize the points that you and I have both made, quality over quantity, big one. Managing expectations about what people can expect in terms of their relationship with you. Being grounded in gratitude, not using the holiday to do the work that needs to be done in the rest of the year, I think is a big one. And picking your moments about when to tackle an issue with somebody. You know, is it the time to teach? Is it the time to accept? So yeah, I think that's a good one. I'm curious, do you have any? I have another question, but I want to give you an opportunity to speak about stuff that you want to speak about. So what do you have on your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we kind of tackled what I wanted to speak about in some of the engagements we had now, which was mainly the art of balance, right?
Right.
Because like I said, I think that's quite an essential art that one needs to exercise during this time of the year, and in life in general. But I think during this time of the year, it's absolutely, top priority that you keep balance top of mind. Particularly if you've got like medium-term goals that acknowledge your breaks and off periods, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing about a goal. It doesn't acknowledge off periods. So it's about how do you make sure that right.
Well said. Well said. Okay. Well, I guess the last question that I would have, which I think we've touched on a little bit earlier on in the year, but I think it's now nice and relevant to talk about, is New Year's resolutions. I'm curious for you, are you approaching the year with any New Year's resolutions? What's your philosophy for that? What do you think is the right approach for New Year's resolutions?
So for me, like I always say to you guys, generally I always structure my goals to short term, medium, long term. So yeah, isn't new because I had medium to long term goals that I already set in place. So it's more just about checking where I am versus my original plan.
Yep.
And then the New Year's resolutions are more just about developing new skills, new trades, going to new places, saving, it's more that type of stuff. But I never put an actual goal into New Year's resolution. That's for me is not really the way you tackle it if you want to get far and you really want to test yourself.
100%.
And yourself, what's your approach to it?
I am exactly the same as you. I think, statistically speaking, up over 90% of people who set New Year's resolutions give up on them pretty quick. So, and I think the reason for that is it's all about what you're practicing. So, if 90% of the year you haven't been goal orientated, you haven't been thinking about goals and setting goals, why do you think you would now just change that behavioral pattern because of this small little landmark in the year? You're not going to, because that's not who you are.
Yeah.
So you can set and you should set goals at any time, always, and think about your goals at any time and always, because that is a behavioral pattern to build. And I think also one of the things why I don't like the New Year's resolution is because people will literally spend the whole year not thinking about goals and not working on goals. And then they get to New Year's and they set massive, massive goals. The muscle, and like I say, the muscle hasn't been built yet. It's like you don't go to the gym the whole year and now you want to gym every day. It's not sustainable. You haven't progressed into this thing, And I do believe in big goals.
Exactly.
I always set big goals, but behind every big goal is a bunch of small goals. So you need to work your way up to that. And I would urge people to do the same thing, New Year's resolutions. It's like, it's fine if you want to set new goals now that you're reaching end of 2023, but don't say it to yourself as, I'm setting a New Year's resolution. You should say, I'm trying to build a new habit in my life of goal setting and being more focused on my goals. Because then when you reach February, you're not going to say to yourself, oh, well, it's not the new year anymore. I don't have to think about New Year's resolutions. You'll say to yourself, no, this is just who I am now. I do this. This is what I do. This is my standard that I live by, where I focus on my goals and I'm constantly checking in on these things. Because as you know, if you're not measuring your progress towards your goal, you're not going to make any progress because you don't know if what you're doing is working. So you should be thinking about your goals at least once a week, if not every day. That's how I look at it, because every day is a day in your life. You should be thinking about the goals every day.
And I like how you I like how you said that, and I think I always tell you about this law from Napoleon Hill called the law of hypnotic rhythm.
Hmm.
The law of hypnotic rhythm states that anything that is done over a fixed period of time becomes permanent and fixed into the person's habitual system.
Yep.
Right. So when you set a goal, you need to make sure are your actions abiding by the law of hypnotic rhythm, because results are a production of a specific set of actions done correctly over time. So the
100%.
first thing is to make sure you're doing the actions because the actions produce these results.
Yeah,
And you need to make sure that the action you're putting in can actually equate to the results that you want.
exactly.
And that can then be accurately through the assessment or making sure you abide by the law of hypnotic rhythm in everything that you set off to
100%.
do. Because once that becomes in pattern, the universal system of your being, how you operate, then the results are on their way, provided you're doing it correctly every time and in line with what is required to produce those results.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's focus. Another name for that is just focus. What you focus on at every moment is what is going to shape your life. So, you know, we've spoken about this before, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but today everything is competing for your attention. And you get to decide, do you allow external forces to dictate where your attention is and where your focus goes? Or are you going to choose where your focus goes? And the act of setting goals is the act of choice. It's saying, this is the life that I want to design for myself. I'm not just going to go with the flow and let the tide dictate to me where I will be. And that is, we talk about the 80-20, the 90-10, the masses and the few. The masses allow society to tell them where to go because they go to school, they go, if they're lucky, they go to university, they get a job, and then they stay there for the rest of their lives. And
Yeah.
that's because they don't have goals. They don't have focus. There's no lifestyle design. And yeah,
Can
please.
I tell you something?
Yeah,
I like what you mentioned, the 80-20.
yeah,
Do you know that it is one of the most no, not the most, I'd say it's one of the concepts that are least acknowledged, that are a big reality of the society. And it is extremely important that you benchmark yourself and you ask yourself, based on your behaviors and your traits
yeah,
and your life plan,
yeah.
do I fall in the 80% or do I fall in the 20%? A
100.
lot of people don't ask that question.
Yeah,
So you can do that measure, you know where you sit, and that where you sit will tell you what you need to do to improve. And that's the end of the question. So I always make that assessment. Is this 80%, 20%? I want to be on the 80, on the 20%, so I'll do what the 20% too. And
100.
I do that enough times. I abide by the law of hypnotic rhythm. It becomes fixed in time and in my habitual system. And I just wait for the results because now I'm doing it on autopilot.
Well
And you
said.
repeat and you repeat and you repeat and you repeat.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And you know what you said there about autopilot? It's like it talks to the four different levels of mastery of something, where
Yeah.
you have unconscious incompetence, which is the base. You have conscious incompetence, which is the next level. You have
Yeah.
conscious competence, and then you have unconscious competence, which is what you're talking about on autopilot. And when
Yeah.
you're talking about behavioral patterns, you need to go through those four layers of competence.
Yeah.
Most people
100%.
who are not aware are living in unconscious incompetence. Uh,
Yeah.
So, that's why I say, like, when it comes to
True.
goal
True.
setting, goal setting and living your goals and like pursuing these things, it's not something that you can just turn on and off come New Year's.
Yeah.
You must decide, this is who I am. Every day, I'm thinking about my goals. It's okay if you have, like we talk about seasons and different periods of intensity where you can't dictate a lot of time to things. but you should always think about it.
Yeah.
Because it dictates the choices that you make. You know, it's your compass.
Yeah. And I like the one thing you mentioned, and I think we should just bookmark this point for another podcast conversation. Unconscious incompetence.
Mm.
I think a lot of people suffer from that.
Mm-hmm.
I suffered it for a long time. I think every person in life suffers it for a period of time. And freedom is when you come out of that state.
Yeah.
So I think we need to talk about that
We'll talk about that.
in another conversation. But I really like that first layer. I think it's about breaking free from the first layer of unconscious incompetence, unconscious unawareness.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
I think there's a bigger bracket of things that are related that contribute to this 80% that you don't want to be in. You want to be in the 20%.
Amen. And I think
Cool,
that's
your brother.
a great place to wrap up today's episode. So I just want to say thanks, T. Thank you for the time. Thank you to the listeners. I hope you guys are having a beautiful festive season and preparing for a great 2024. So thank you.
Yeah, and have a good one, everyone. Thanks for Alex, to you for the wisdom exchange. I think that's the main intention of this podcast. So thanks for always coming through with honesty, and to anyone who's listened, thank you. I hope you guys have enjoyed as much as we have. And yeah, have a lovely 2023 year end, and may 2024 be the best yet.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. Until next time.